This is Basic, the Atari 8-bit podcast.
This is Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. Paula Polley started at Atari in 1982, where she worked as a copywriter. She wrote marketing for product boxes and wrote for Atari Connection magazine. This interview took place on August 14, 2016 at Vintage Computer Festival West.
I was an advertising copywriter that worked in big ad agencies in LA and Chicago and places like that. I went to Northwestern and got a degree in advertising journalism, actually a BS in advertising, which I thought was appropriate.
Nice.
And at the time, actually, a lot of schools didn't have advertising programs, so that was kind of cool too. And then I eventually ended up working at an agency in San Francisco, and it was right around the time computers were happening and everything. And I tried to and word processing. I had worked in San Jose at a small agency that had Wang computers, and so I fell in love with word processing and computers and being able to write on the computer and make changes and not have to worry about typos and all that stuff.
Sure.
And so then that was in San Jose, and then I got a job at like a fancier agency, can't remember the name of it now, in San Francisco, and I said, look, you guys, you got to get these Wang computers. They're really great. Computers are the next thing. And they're like, no. And I said, we should go for some computer accounts here. And they were like, no, those are the guys down in the basement. You don't want to do that. Stay up here with us and work on Safeway and,
Right.
And so I was really frustrated because I really wanted to, this new thing was coming. I was really excited. And so then this is like, way in the days when actually you could find a job in a newspaper.
Yeah.
And so I saw this ad for a copywriter at Atari. It was on July 22nd.
Why do you remember that?
Because it was my mother-in-law's birthday. Yeah.
Okay.
And also it was the same day my husband asked me to marry him. So.
Oh, right. Legit thing.
Okay. So I thought, well, that sounds cool. I could work right down. So anyway, so that the rest is history. Then I met Jim Inscore, the guys I told you about, and he hired me, and I loved it. It was, to me, I think it was probably back then kind of like what working at Google would be like today. It's just like the beginning of all this stuff happening. It was the beginning of the personal computer, and we all, of course, I worked for Atari, but we thought our computer was like way better than. The IBM computer was just a joke. We had color, they didn't.
Right.
Ours was faster. We had nicer screens, but they had the more marketing. They had the IBM name and all that.
Right. So you were hired in marketing to what was your first job? What did it make you do?
Well, I'm a copywriter, so I wrote like the words that go on the back of the boxes. I don't remember that. Like they used to be like software boxes, and they'd have like an ad on the back, and I kind of like help them develop that, because before it used to be just like a bunch of specs, like here's all the specs. And so I said, no, we should really turn this into a selling opportunity. We've got these people in the store, doing ads. So I did a lot of those, and then we did a lot of, I wrote for this magazine called the Atari Connection.
Okay.
Wrote a bunch of articles, and I remember one of the articles, you can actually find it online right now. It talks about, they wrote this article that said, in the future, people are going to actually be able to work at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Using their modems?
Yeah, right. I know. So anyway, yeah. And so it was really, really fun and exciting.
Wow.
And then Atari kind of imploded, right?
Right.
That's when that, I forgot the name of that guy that came in from.
Right. The
Ray.
Kassar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I went on to, work for like smaller game companies and stuff like that were just emerging. So.
Okay. Before, tell me, do you remember any particular products that you wrote copy for that?
Yeah,
were
I remember.
memorable?
Yeah, I remember. One was an accounting one that we did, which I remember it was really a fun one because we had like this sort of like nerdy guy on the back, and it said something about. The biggest problem with Atari accounting is you're going to have to fire George, and he was like the accountant. And I remember we worked on a big, huge school project where we did all these, it must have been like 40 different products and a big catalog and all this stuff. And we spent all this money developing all the materials and everything. And then at the end, they right before the release date, they killed it or something. I thought that was interesting.
What was the project?
It was a whole series of different educational products, like all different sciences and math and everything.
Right. Huh. They did some interesting experiments with education stuff. They had the Atari Lab and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was
And
but that was more. Wasn't Atari Lab people like people outsiders developing things and sending it in? I thought that's what it was.
Some of that,
Yeah,
it was done out of
Yeah.
and yeah, cool. So, how long were you there?
I guess it must have only been about 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think it was 85 when everything kind of fell. Was it 84 or 85 when everything fell apart?
Yeah, end of '84.
Yeah, I kind of got out just at the right in the
Right.
nick of time kind of thing.
So you were hired by Jim Inscore, you said.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
And who else did you work with?
Let's see. A designer I worked with was Allison Woods. Let's see. Steve Young was another editor-writer. I don't know if you've talked to
I
him.
don't know that name, no.
Yeah. It was all people in marketing and advertising.
Sure.
Drawing a blank on some of the names right now.
All right. Are there any other Atari stories we haven't talked about yet?
Let me think. Well, we did a lot of, we did a lot of work on, was it the 6400? Is that the black one?
The 6400,
Was it-
the 1200.
Yeah.
There was the.
Oh,
400,
maybe it was the
the
1200.
1200 XL.
Yeah, the black one. It's kind of.
Yeah.
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 So I remember we did a lot of time on promotions for that, and I think I still have one actually somewhere, and and it was just actually a really, one thing that stood out for me was like it was a really strong computer. It was really, really good, and it just didn't make it in the marketplace. And the other thing I remember just about the way Atari was structured at the time is they had a separate, like a whole different building and a whole different, almost like a different company almost, just for the game people.
Right.
And they did all their game stuff, and then they had and I was in the computer division, and and they actually had like their own New York agencies, which is like, if you think about it today, it's like really, really wasteful in terms of, monetization. You don't need to have and also in terms of branding, you kind of want everything under the same umbrella, but it was almost like two different companies, and the computer company, they just didn't pay as much attention to it. We were sort of like the stepchild, so, but although I thought our product was like fantastic.
Yeah.
So.
You ended up liking it more than the Wang computers.
Yeah, way more, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right. So, how did your time at Atari come to an end? Were you laid off? Did you quit?
I got a job like at another agency in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I can't even remember the name of it now because it's like really small. But
you said you did some other video game work later.
Yeah, and then I worked for a Magic, and I did some work for Activision. A Magic was kind of interesting. Well, Activision and a Magic were interesting because they were the first. I think they were the first two actually companies that only did software, because before that all the hardware companies of course made their own games, and so that was like a really big deal. In fact, I remember we did like a bunch of CES promos and stuff and made a big deal about like finally we just do the software, and that was like this incredible new thing kind of, because that was actually before Microsoft I guess too, or Microsoft just emerging, so that was a big deal to think about a company actually doing software and not doing the hardware. It's like
yeah. Did you get to go to CES for these things?
Oh yeah, I went to CES a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That must
Yeah, it
have
was
been
fun. It was really fun for me
wild.
because my family was all in Chicago too, so it used to be in Chicago back then, so it was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what do you do today?
I'm still doing copywriting,
Yeah.
and I'm still working for tech companies.
Excellent.
Yeah, right now I'm working for a company called Lean Plum that's like an SDK for mobile apps to help them with their marketing and stuff, so.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. If you could send a message to the Atari computer users that still exist, and you can right now,
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
Oh, the users that still exist. You mean people that actually have their machines up and
Yeah, they're
running?
still playing games and listening to this podcast. And
Oh, yeah. Let me think for a second. Well, I would like to know if anybody out there has like a coffee table Tempest. Because that would be really cool to have.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's Atari though, but
I think so.
yeah.
There's a show every summer in around here, Santa Clara, I think, called California Extreme. It's a video game show.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of place where the people, people with the cocktail tempest,
Right,
they
right.
only made 50 of them. You know, the,
Yeah, right.
3 of them will show up there.
Yeah,
and
cool.
It's a fun show.
Yeah, kind of like this place. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe go back and read some of those Atari Connections and see how we like really kind of nailed what was going to happen.
Yeah. That was a fun magazine.
Yeah.
And it kind of varied from, sometimes it was pure marketing, and sometimes it wasn't. It was
Right.
informational.
And a lot of magazines have been like that, actually. I worked on one called Kidsoft later on. That was like a big marketing thing, but it was back when the kids software stuff was really big, before it was all online. And it was kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Cool.
So.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
If you enjoyed these interviews and would like to contribute something, I encourage you instead to donate to one of our favorite organizations, the Internet Archive, at archive.org. The Internet Archive is a nonprofit digital library with the stated mission of universal access to all knowledge. They've done incredible things to preserve computer history, including hosting thousands of programs in an in-browser Atari emulator, creating the Wayback Machine, and offering full-page scans of countless Atari computer books and magazines. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate.